Hey guys, what's up? I'm Charlie Merrill. This is Kirk Warner. We're back for part 2 on our series on orthotics. And today we're going to be talking about how you can either prevent the need for orthotics or how you can wean out of orthotics by getting your foot strong and stable. Get excited, roll the intro. All right, so we're here with part 2 in our discussion about orthotics. Part 1, we talked about orthotics generally, why someone might need them. We talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, about why people might not need them or why they might be ready to wean out of them. In part 2, we're going to discuss how to get the mobility, the stability, and the strength you're going to need in order to either avoid an orthotic or wean out of your orthotics. Now, I had a lot of questions after part 1 about overpronation, about flat feet. Answered some of those questions in the comments, but we're going to address some of those questions today, specifically around how a pronating foot isn't necessarily a problem. In fact, pronation is how we absorb shock from the ground. And so we don't always need to fix it, but we are going to talk about strategies to help you get better control over your foot so that you can run more efficiently, injury-free, without an orthotic, and even with minimalist shoes at some point. So let's dig into our exercise progression and how we're going to get your feet strong. So you guys, the starting point here is around intention. And this is us learning how to use our muscles in our feet and in our lower legs to position our foot in neutral so that we are doing the job that the orthotic has been doing for us. We're essentially weaning out of a brace and we're trying to condition the muscles to do that job. So all of the exercises that follow are going to be based on this intention, the intention of knowing where your foot is in the space and knowing how what your muscles need to do to get it there. So we're going to start with Kirk's foot in a neutral position, which means that his heel is planted on the ground, maybe with 50% of his weight. The ball of his foot, where the bunion sometimes is planted on the ground with the other 50% of his weight. And then he brings his arch up off the ground. Even if you're one of those people that is a pronator or has flatter feet, there's going to be some amount of lifting that you get in the midfoot. These are this row of bones in the mid part of your foot. So the heel's on the ground, the ball of the foot is on the ground, the big toe is firmly planted but not curled. Can you show us that, Kirk? We're not trying to do that. But the arch is actually rising up as if you had your orthotic inside your shoe. That's going to bring you up to a neutral position, if not slightly higher, so that you can really learn how that feels. First step is just to sort of learn, without much weight on the foot, how to feel that by going down to pronation into your flat foot, shock absorption, and then back up to what you'd consider neutral. Really focusing on keeping the ball of the foot on the ground. Once you can go up and down a few times and you feel like you can get the sense for what that means, you're going to take note that your foot is actually getting shorter as you do that. So the ball of the foot actually goes away from the heel as his foot flattens. And as he raises his arch, the ball of the foot moves back towards the heel as his arch comes up. And that is what we're looking for. You're going to feel some strain in the arch of your foot. You might even feel some work in the lower muscles in the lower leg. Once you master that, we're going to start to practice it on both feet at the same time, just in standing, as if you were standing in line at the grocery store. So Kirk's just going to start to work on that feeling of like gripping the ground with his arches, going up and down to develop awareness about where he is in space and the intention of what muscles are doing it. Again, we're not curling the toe, we're not scrunching towels. That's old school thinking with regard to which muscles are doing the work. Once Kirk masters it on 2 feet, then he's going to go to 1 foot, because as a runner, as we've talked about in the past, you're on 1 foot or no feet in the air all of the time. So he's going to spend some time finding that position while he gets his balance. He may find that he's actually more stable, more balanced in that position, and he's going to shoot for about a 30-second hold time, after which he's going to feel some burning in his arch. He's going to feel some real work in the muscles in his lower leg. He'll take a break, and he'll repeat that 4 or 5 times on each foot until he really feels tired. That's our starting point. Again, everything else builds off this, so take some time to master this first, and we'll see you at the next step. All right, you guys, part 2 is going to build off of what we just did. we're going to take that new awareness, that intention around the neutral foot position, and we're going to make it a little more fun and interesting. I find this pretty challenging, but I think you'll master it quickly. Kirk is going to start like he did before on both feet, finding his neutral arch position, which if you're a flat-footed person may not be super high, and that's okay. It's just how your foot is built. Once we find that position, he's got the arch muscles, the lower leg activated. He's going to rise up onto his toes, which is going to further reinforce a good arch position. It's also going to encourage good mobility in his first toe joint while he's balancing. Once he gets there and stays there, he's going to try to squat down to about half depth, staying on his toes. And then, once he gets balanced, he's going to lower his heels down, which is now going to work on a little bit of mobility in his ankles to assure that his ankle motion is sufficient for running with minimalist shoes without orthotics, at least with less support. Let's try it again, Kirk. So you're going to find neutral, go up on your toes, get balanced, half squat, staying balanced. Once he gets to steady, he's going to lower his heels all the way to the ground, and then he's going to stand back up. Now, we're going to reverse it. It's challenging, huh? We're going to squat first. With his arches in neutral, we're always coming back awareness intention-wise to this neutral foot position with the ball of the foot planted. He's going to go up on his toes from his squat, and then he's going to stand back up out of his squat, still on his toes, before he lowers back down to guess where? A neutral foot position, always coming back that neutral position. He's going to feel a lot of work in his calves, a lot of work in his lower leg muscles, and a lot of work in his arch muscles. We're at a point now where we're still in stability phase, but we're starting to build some strength, so there will be some fatigue at this phase. I want him to do 10 repetitions. That's 5 each direction. In one, you go up on your toes first, and the other one, you squat first, or until fatigue. And I want him to do that at least 1 round. If you want to challenge yourself, do 2 or 3 rounds. I really want you to get to the point where you appreciate how much work this is for your arch muscles and for the muscles in your lower leg. That's going to be part 2. What we're going to do next is we're going to transition out of awareness stability into more explosive strength, which is going to help you transition into running more easily. So we'll see you at part 3. So part 3, exercise 3, takes everything we've done and puts it into a more explosive context. Now we're teaching the connective tissue, the ligaments, the bones, the joints, and the muscles and tendons how to store energy and release it, which is exactly what they do when you run. We're going to start on one foot now. Woo! And we're going to ask Kirk to find this familiar position that he now knows so well, where he is raised up his midfoot, his heel and the ball of his foot, his big toe are firmly planted, but not curled, and he's stable. And then we're going to ask him to jump. So he's going to start with his other leg back, bring it forward, flex it through as he jumps, and then as he lands, he's going to, as quickly as possible, refine that position before jumping again. I'm going to encourage him to start slow and take a second to refine the position, refine his balance before he goes. But as he gets better, he can do more of a continuous hop as though there's a rhythm to it, like he's running, okay? Doesn't have to be perfect, but I want him with the same intention of trying to stay in that position as long as he can until he feels this burning happen in his lower leg and arch again. It might happen pretty quickly. I'm gonna let that feeling determine how many reps you start with. I want you to do a couple, 3 rounds of those again, and just go until you feel like you are worn out in those muscles. If you feel like this is starting to get easy for you at any point, you can start adding forward hops. You can start adding sideways hops to challenge you in different planes, especially if you're a trail runner. And what I love about this is it still continues to challenge the mobility limitations in the ankle and the big toe that we so often see hold people back when it comes to foot pain, ankle pain. So just know that we're addressing mobility of the big toe and ankle. We're addressing stability and awareness around neutral foot, regardless of what foot type you have. And we're addressing the strength and the ability to store energy, these tissues to store energy and release it efficiently. Once you develop this awareness, you don't have to worry about it carrying over into your running. It will just sort of happen because it feels familiar then. and you can go into your run confident that this new awareness is going to really change your biomechanics in a positive way. So there you have our 3 favorite exercises for improving stability and strength in your foot to prevent you from having to get an orthotic or to start weaning out of your orthotics. Just know that all of these exercises have a commonality, and that is to build intention and a habit around finding your neutral foot position and learning to stay there. This is applicable to just about any exercise you might do in the gym, squatting, lunges, box jumps, but it's also important to start to build habit while you're standing in line at the grocery store, just walking around during the day. It's something that we want you making habitual before you roll it into your running. Generally, I'll recommend people work on this stuff for 4 to 6 weeks, at least 3 days a week, to start to develop the strength and stability they need to support the next step. If you're doing this stuff in the gym 3+ days a week with all of the other exercises that you're doing, that's going to even help to get you there faster. Once you're at a point where you feel like you're ready to explore weaning out of your orthotics, I want you to take the orthotics out for day-to-day wear, assuming you wear them all day. And you might decide that you're going to take them out for the morning, but put them back in the afternoon initially, but just take them out for walking around. Once you feel like you've mastered that, you've had success with that, then you look at your running schedule and you start with one of your shorter, easier runs. You're going to pull your orthotic and you're going to trust that that run is going to be okay without that device inside of your shoe. You're going to keep the same shoe you've been running in. If it's a motion control shoe, keep that shoe. We don't need to think about changing shoes right away. Just have success with a shorter, easier run with your orthotic out of your shoe. We're going to make a rule of no more than 20% increase in volume a week without your orthotics, or a rule of no more than 20% time without your orthotic per week. That means after about 5 weeks, you should be pretty close to out of your orthotics. If you run into a hiccup, if you run into problems during the course of that transition, talk to your local physical therapist, talk to your local physician, local body worker to help you problem solve through and maybe design something more specific for you and your goals. One last thing, because we had so many questions after the first video about flat feet and pronation. You probably saw from the video that my foot tends to want to pronate, and that's okay. Pronation is the way we absorb shock. Just because you have a flat foot or pronate doesn't mean you can't reduce the amount of excessive pronation you have through these exercises. But if you have the type of foot that's flat like mine is, it also doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to run. In fact, some of the fastest runners I know, 4-minute milers, have very flat feet, and they can run fast despite that. So don't let your anatomy of your foot hold you back. We're trying to develop a healthy amount of pronation. We're trying to develop good control and awareness. And if you can master that, the chances of you needing orthotic are super slim.
Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you liked it, let Charlie and I know by clicking the like button below. If you have questions or comments for either of us, I didn't do too much, but if you have questions for Charlie, he will hop in there and he will answer your questions. So be sure to let him know if you have any questions along the way. He's not a medical doctor, so don't ask about, heart conditions and things like that. But if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to the Run Experience as well. We're dropping mad content, We will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for coming by.